I'm your host, Jermaine Curtis Liburd, and welcome to Are We There Yet? Welcome to the show, Jake Rees.
Thank you for having us, bro.
Of course, bro. It's been a long time coming. It's a conversation that's needed. I feel like a lot of people need to hear these conversations for various reasons of spreading awareness and also giving people an insight as well. The world seems to be changing every day. There seems to be new leaders in all different factions of life popping up, and it's a case of who do you trust, who don't you trust. So, that's why we're here today. You're a man that's been on a spiritual journey, which we're going to cover today. You now run the Illuminate and the Lighthouse Health Community Hub. So we want to speak about your journey from the beginning, how you've got to doing that, and exactly the work that you do as well. Give us insight into the spirituality, the work that you do, and obviously the background and the ethos behind all that. But as usual, we've got water here. Feel as comfortable as you do. We've got sweets here as well. That's my addiction, I say all the time, but in 2026, there will be no more sweets on the table. I don't know what will be here, but there'll be sweets, but that'll be it. So, be comfortable. Answer as many questions as you can. There's some really in-depth questions, really insightful. The more that you give us, the more we have an insight into spirituality and so forth, and, the more you can teach us. So, just be as open and honest as you can. And, just be yourself, but we'll get right into it.
Yeah, let's do it, my brother.
So, you grew up in Wythenshawe. What was it like growing up in your household, family?
Yeah, family did the best with us, very loving family. Yeah, my mum is absolutely amazing, man. I love mum to bits. She's pretty much brought up 3 kids, me and my 2 little sisters. And yeah, they was doing the best with what they had, always had food, roof over our head, always getting to school with nice clothes, saved up. Not much money, but my mum would save up, make sure she looked after us the best she could. And then, I grew up with my stepdad. My stepdad was in and out of our lives. He was in and out of jail a lot. And suffered the witnessing a lot of domestic violence growing up as well.
Okay.
Between parents.
Okay.
And yeah, I won't change anything, bro. I feel like my soul chose that seed to get planted and see what I had to see,
Experiences make you who you are today. I get it.
Yeah. And man, as I'm still in touch with my stepdad now. Him and my mum aren't together.
Okay.
They had separate ways about 15 years ago. But yeah, man, life growing up was great, bro. Out every day, playing with friends, football, boxing.
Can I just ask, do you have a relationship with your biological father?
No.
Because reason why I said that is because your stepfather is no longer with your mum. You said they've been separated 15 years and you still have a relationship. And it's just interesting that you call him a stepfather and not your father, because it seems like you have a father-son kind of relationship because you're still in contact.
Yeah. I suppose we stayed in contact. A big reason is through my dad's mum, like me Nana Val. Like, she's just, I love her to bits. She's never missed a birthday. Always online, supporting us. Anything we do. Is just an amazing woman, as my grandma was. So she kind of kept that thread going, because there was a lot of conflict between him and my mum for a long time.
Okay.
And through coming on this journey, which we'll get into a little bit later, I just learned to forgive, bro, everything, and just started to see it through a different eyes, that people were just making the choices from the best tools that they had in the box at that time, And when you trace it back through their ancestors, there's a pattern of violence or of some kind of conflict that gets traced back, and and as you said at the beginning, this is a time now where these changes are starting to happen. People are coming more self-aware and realizing why these things are happening in the family, and realizing the effect it's having on us, and the actual DNA that we're downloading from this happening and from our parents, from our lineage. Yeah, me and my sister have got the same dad. So my dad's from Karachi.
Karachi, okay.
Yeah, it's the ghetto of Pakistan. But then I've done, I had a reading, I've learned I've got Persian, Nordic, Hawaiian blood in me as well.
Okay,
So
cocktail there.
Yeah. It's a few different bits through him, bro. And so my father left when he was young. So then when I was 10 years old, I was told that my stepfather was my real father. So I just seen him as dad, you know. Very charismatic, very funny. He looked after himself, you know, even though he was in and out, he looked well. But he was taking drugs at the time, you know, heroin, other different drugs, suppressing his trauma. You know, he seen his brother. He took his brother out when he was younger, and his brother got run over by a train when he was like 10 years old.
What?
So I had to go home to his mum and say, "Look, brother, our little brothers, Michael has passed." So he had his own trauma that he was dealing with, you know.
Jeez, man.
That I didn't realise until starting to really come on this journey and look at where I was able to see the outbursts and why people do certain things when they're in certain situations and what they're dealing with. And as you know, you just never know what people are going through and dealing with, man, until something happens, and then you might ask them, you know, why did you do that or act like that? Is everything okay? And they start to open up. Actually, no, it's not. This is what's going on. And this is part of why I've chose to go into this journey now of being of service to human beings.
Okay, well, we'll get to that. Like him, because there's a lot we're going to cover on that and about the service that you provide as well. And you've spoken about racism, being racism towards you and your sister growing up. How did that affect your sense of security and safety?
Yeah, like the first time that I heard racism, I didn't know what the words meant. So I was out playing on the road, playing football, playing Kirby. I remember they was asking for the ball back, and they said, and it was my ball. So I said, I don't want to play with you, because I was playing with my sister. And then they were like, give us a ball back, you nigger. So then I didn't know what that word meant at the time, and it was a lot older than me and a lot bigger. So you know, physically, I didn't want to go there at that time. So I just said to my sister, come on. So we went back. And then they'd call other names, you know, throughout that time. And I could see that was how their householders grew up. They learned that from their parents. So I went home to my mum and asked her, like, Mum, over the road, they just called me a nigger. What does it mean? And then Mum started going mad. So she went out to their house, knocked on the door, bum, 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 bum. What's your kid saying to my kid, blah, blah, blah. So then she said, you know, he's saying it because you've got different coloured skin to him, and he's trying to insult you, you know, through the colour of your skin. And then I was just asking, like, why is my skin a different colour to theirs? You know, and then you start to ask these questions as like a 4 or 5 year old child. You know, you start to look at the world and ask why things are different, you know? Yeah,
it's a bit unfair. Like, you know, it's when you start questioning, like, wait a minute, I thought I was just a kid.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm a brown kid.
Yeah, that's it, bro. That's it. And it was like, Mum saying, look, there's different people from all over the world, you know, with different coloured skin and, you know, different shaped eyes, and everyone's unique and beautiful and different in their own way, you know. And then, yeah, she would just said, if anyone ever says that again to you, I said, make sure you punch him.
There you go.
Make sure you hit him, you know.
That's the kind of attitude I was brought up with, innit? Like, yeah, they call you whatever, you punch him in the mouth, innit? Like, yeah. And I did that.
It was accepted where we was from, you know. That was kind of rough and ready kind of area. And you know, there was always a lot of fighting. One was working in the pubs, so I was used to see fights in the pubs, you know. So it just kind of the thing that you grew up with. You know, you could smack your kids then if they were naughty, and, you know, flip around the air if you was being disrespectful, you know.
Oh, you get locked up for shouting at them.
Yeah.
You got into boxing at age 8. Was that, you know, part of survival? Was it anger? Or was it, you know, literally for, you know, sports protection?
Yeah, so from seeing my mum and dad fighting, my mum's a tough woman as well, you know. Seeing them fighting, sometimes, you know, I would try to pull my dad off my mum, because my stepdad was obviously a lot stronger. And just that disempowerment as a child, not being able to pull a man off your mum, was very, very upsetting, caused a lot of anger for me. So, I'd go to school and I'd be at outbursts, having fights in school, and yes, more racism in school, So that's where probably the fight started, because my mum said if anyone ever says anything, then you got to hit him, So that's how the fight started. But then I realised that there was actually built up anger that was inside of me, because I was not in control of my household. I didn't feel safe at home. In certain times I did, but certain times if I heard I'm playing in the living room, I hear a loud noise, I hear the voices start to raise in the kitchen, automatically my nervous system goes, they're going to start fighting. So that was kind of the young program at that age that was kicking in, of loud noises is going to kick off, be aware, so yeah.
I can relate to that so much. It's actually mad hearing it coming out of your mouth, because when I done my own story, and same thing, I was talking about high school, and in high school I was always in trouble and fighting all the time, and why? And I said, like, looking back, it's like, because I was misunderstood of what was happening at home. I was going through a lot at home, like you're saying, a lot of abuse and trauma, and witnessing a lot of physical abuse, my mum and father, and when you can't protect your mum, it does something to you. Like, honestly, like hearing that coming out of your mouth, it's like, it's just kind of like solidifying, like exactly what I've been through, because it's the exact same thing. Hearing it coming out of your mouth, man, it's just like, how common was this? And how many of us kids were, misunderstood back in the day and left there because of what was happening at home? Like your story, very, very, what you just told me, very, very similar to mine. It's hitting me a lot, especially when you're saying about not being able to drag your dad off your mum and feeling powerless. Like, I can relate to that a lot.
Yeah, bro. It was. I feel in the West, particular. I feel men haven't been taught how to deal with emotional build-ups, and when men lose control or they can't get their own way, they can't regulate their emotion, so they physically have to try and gain control by physically doing it, and I feel that stems from the war, from when we went to war. The women went to work, the men went to war, then they come back and they were told, don't speak about the war, just go to the pub, drink, that's going to cure it. And then, from the drink or the drugs or whatever else people were taking to numb it at that time, then would come home, and then the conflict would start at home, because they wasn't allowed to express and talk about their emotion as men. They was told to hold it in, so...
it's still like that today. Men feel like men can't cry, they can't talk about the traumas. And to be honest, it's one of the reasons why I started doing this show, trying to create a safe space for men to be able to talk about the traumas, because when we don't, it eats us up inside, and it becomes something just negative. Like you're saying, you could be in jail, you could have ended up, repressing that anger into someone else or whatever. But men need to talk about the problems.
Oh, 100%, bro. 100%. And I feel there's a big shift in the male stigma now of, sports personalities talking out what you're doing here, bringing it out. And, it's so vital at this time that as many people start to spread this awareness as possible, because, we've got to reclaim our power as a balanced man, and a protector, but also being able to be safe and express emotion at the same time as well,
and feel safe doing it.
Yeah, 100%, 100%, and I see more of this now starting to be brought to awareness, and it's saving lives, bro. It's saving lives, especially through males. The last year I had so many people phoning me. Only went to a funeral a few weeks ago of one of my good friends. God rest his soul, Ben. Motivational speaker.
Yeah.
He supported us a lot with our events. We supported him as well with his movement. And if it was to put 10,000 men up in Manchester, he would be right at the back. He would say at the list to do these things. But like we said at the beginning, you never know what people are going through. And it's so important that we start to speak about these things and bring them out and create spaces for this to be.
That's it. An awareness. An awareness.
And it's actually a paradox, because in the awareness of what it used to be, it's actually courageous to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That is actually a good way of putting it. It's courageous to be vulnerable. Like, that's facts. I seen a post the other day, and it was a woman saying that her boyfriend cried in front of her. Something serious was happening with him. He cried in front of her, and she respects him, you know, letting out his emotion and crying, etc. But after that, she can look at him the same again. And I'm like, this is the problem. We have to pretend that, you know, we're soldiers and we're fine all the time. He cried in front of his girlfriend and she wanted to leave him after that. And it's like, can men not cry? Do we have to contain it until it affects our mental health? And this is the problem.
Yes. And this is where emotional maturity comes into where the men and the women now, and like you're saying, the women, some of the women just like, they want a bad boy. They want someone who and but then some, I'm saying in this context.
I see what you're saying about what a bad guy and so forth, a bad boy image. Let's say the word image, because nobody wants to. When they get a real bad man, they don't want a bad man. This thing of having this bad man image, does that also come from a sense of security and being vulnerable, and them feeling like they need a bad man in order to have security and feel safe? Is it a case of that these women have came from unsafe environments?
Well, this is where the emotionally immature comes in, of a program of wanting to feel safe, of wanting to be seen and validated wherever you're from in your area. Don't say anything to me because I'll get X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And it's like, but we're tribal beings. We're meant to live in tribes, and we're meant to sit down as we're doing now and have these conversations, you know. And I feel with your friend, you know, and I feel for him, and I feel for him.
It's not my friend. It was a post I seen online.
Sorry, a post you seen online, where the man is getting to a point of emotional pent up, where it's like to his missus, boom, like, you know, crying, letting it out, boom, boom, boom. And a real woman would hold a man in that and say, yo, cry, man, let it out, let it go, boom, whatever it is. Because behind all anger is built up sadness.
Yeah.
So when you can cry, the anger's released, the frustration's released, you're going back home, you're not agitated when you go through the door. If you feel it when because I've done it back in the past, where you go through the door and you're like, is everything okay? You're like, yeah, everything's fine. But they know it's not, because they're very intuitive people, you know. And then if you're going to start to cry and then they want to leave you, it's like, oh, and then the man then has to put that bad boy image back on.
It's like the next girlfriend I get, I'm going to pretend I'm, you know what I mean? Like, I'm rock hard. I'm not going to cry in front of my next girlfriend. I'm going to hide everything until my mental health deteriorates. And then, you know, she's on the other end of it. Like, you know what I mean? It's that, there's no help. You know what I mean? There's no awareness. And it needs to stop. I feel like social media plays a big part in that as well, in the perceptions that are put out there about, you know, what a strong man is. Normally these days, people say a strong man is someone that's financially stable and rich. But, you know, being financially stable doesn't mean you're strong in heart or mind and soul. And this is it.
Bro, I work with, you know, a lot of people, not a lot, there's some people that come through into the space that are really well off. And they've never been more unhappy in their life, because, you know, they're chasing the money, you know, and that's all they're chasing, but the sacrifice and other things of happiness just to get to it. Obviously we all need money, we all want to put food on the table, we all like to be in that abundance, but you got to look after your mind as well as your physical.
That's true. But with that as well, you know, you can still chase money and riches and so forth and have a peace of mind if you're doing it in, you know, a moralistic way.
Yes.
And you see what it comes down to again as well. Yeah. If what you're doing is not allowing you to sleep at night, then, you know, you're probably doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah. Is it worth the stress that it's causing you?
Exactly.
You know, can you go and can you lie down at night and no one's coming through your door? Would
you want your children to do what you're doing? If the answer is no, then maybe you shouldn't be doing it.
That's it, bro.
There you go.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you feeling not being protected still echoes with you today?
The program's always going to be there. because we download it from 1 to 7, the subconscious mind is formed. So we download programs from our environments, our parents, school, to survive. It's part of us as wired as human beings. So if I hear a loud noise now, I won't get scared, but it'll make me quite vigilant. So I'll say, okay, something's happening, but I won't get scared. I'll just become more vigilant, So it's like when the program comes in your mind, it's always there. But it's like, how far do you let it in? Do you let that program right in and take over your emotion? Because it takes 17 seconds for that program to come in and go, boom, loud noise. Oh, it's going to kick off. And then I start to get scared. Then it goes into fear. Then I'm like, boom, 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 nervous system. But we just go, boom. Oh, it's a loud noise. Is that right? Sweet. But the program's just aware there, So I've learned and done a lot of work on mind mapping and mapping my thoughts out on where my trauma come from, and the wounds. And we're never fully healed. We're always learning. We're always evolving. We're always growing. But I think awareness is good for the inner child. The
inner child.
Yeah. Yeah, because we've all got a little boy or girl inside of us, that's still wants to play, still wants to laugh, still wants to enjoy life. But we've also got to be the adult now, and we've got our children to look after, and we've got, the adult version of us now.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. How you deal with life. It's how you perceive life as well. Some people perceive life as a struggle, some perceive it as a playground and, paradise. It just depends. How you perceive it, will determine your outlook on life as well.
Yeah, man. Yeah, totally. Perception is our power, bro. How we see things, is how we experience life. You could have two people that go on the same holiday, go to the same places, do the same activities, but one has a much better experience because the present, the grateful, and they're connected.
All comes down to appreciation.
Yeah.
It's that again.
And they're not pulling things from the past. They're kind of dealing with things from the past. They're letting go. They're forgiving. They're moving. They're regulating their emotions. They're looking after themselves. They're, like you saying before, they're able to express with the partner if they're going through struggles, so they're not holding on to them. So they're regulating the mind and the body constantly. They're looking after the machine. Making sure it's working optimum so they can enjoy the present moment.
I say living in the moment. You said that you've never agreed with the Western education system. Was that a case of rebellion or a case of you felt unseen?
I think it was unseen. Just have to feel into that at the moment. No, I felt seen. I think it was a case of not feeling valued as much.
By the Western system?
Yeah, not feeling valued as much. Kind of put your hand up, speak to who you spoke to. These are the times you're going to go in. These are the times you're going to go out. You've not got your shirt tucked in, tuck it in. You've not got the right shoes on. You're in removal. Your hair's too short. You're getting suspended. So it's a lot of...
What you're saying there is not really educational, it's indoctrination.
Yeah, so the subjects that I liked and that I enjoyed was down to the teacher. So if I was connected with the teacher and the teacher was on a level, then the teacher got you got the teacher. It doesn't matter if it was a subject that I didn't like, if it was like, I don't know, geography, or I didn't enjoy English. There were certain things that I didn't enjoy as much, but if the teacher was there and he's there for the pupils and he's igniting you, he's giving you enthusiasm, he wants you to be there or she wants you to be there, you're engaged, boom, right, yeah, man, let's go, what's going on? So you kind of want to prove yourself to that teacher, you want to do good for him, you want him to say at the end of the class, you're doing well today, well done, rather than you're not listening, go out, like some little bit... All down to the teacher for me at school, bro, and they're just following the system that's been implemented.
Yeah.
which I think is outdated, because in the last 100 years, the school system hasn't been changed. And if you look back to how the school system was invented, the schooling system was invented for people to be smart enough to operate machinery going into the factories, and that's why the school was invented. So people had enough wisdom to go and press a button and get into the system.
Factory workers.
And it's not really changed. I'd say the last few years, it started to change a little bit. They're starting to bring a little bit of mindfulness in.
Into schools?
Yeah. So they're bringing a little bit of like yoga, a little bit of meditation. So certain people, like I've worked in schools, and they was letting me come in and do holistic PE.
That's very interesting what you're saying now. The school, they're bringing in yoga, they're bringing in meditation. In other words, they're bringing in alternative holistic therapies into schools, which, it sounds great. The schools are looking at other avenues, but, who governs that? Who gets the decision? Because as a parent, you should have the right, to say, whether or not I want my children to engage in these kind of activities or not, The school can change their curriculum and so forth. But when you start speaking of yoga and meditation, that's where things start getting spiritual. When you get spiritual, it's like, you need to be led and taught correctly. Now, in a school, we're doing yoga, like, for what purpose? Like, they're bringing kids into a spiritual area now. For example, a spiritual space. Yoga, yoga's all about emptying yourself, clearing your body out, etc. Meditation, the mind. And I get all that, but when you're a young child and you don't understand all these things and you're just following orders, there's deeper effects that can happen to people and understandings and so forth. And, there's a bit of a danger of introducing certain activities or even knowledge or education to children at such a young age. My problem at the moment is, they're bringing in the whole rainbows. I'll just call it rainbows, the LGBT so forth into schools, to kids as young as 5. And I'm like, to me, it's wrong, because I'm like, you're not really giving people choices or anything, but you're pushing a lot of hard subjects onto kids that don't even understand the difference between a penis and a vagina at this stage. Do you know what I mean? So it's all that, like, there should be a choice where parents get to govern, what actually gets taught to their children. With yourself, you was all about, the teachers, the certain type of teachers that you engage with, and so forth. Certain subjects you might have liked more than others and so forth. And maybe if you were taught in certain other ways that might be more beneficial for you, you might have benefited more from school. But, parents don't get to say in that. And I feel like, when we start introducing all these new practices, we'll call them, parents should get a say in it, you know what I mean? Rather than just reintroducing it.
Yeah, I agree, bro. I agree. And I feel that even the wording that you use can be misunderstood sometimes. So if you just said that in PE today we're going to do some movement and breath and a bit of stretching, and you didn't call it yoga, and it's just that's all yoga is movement and breath.
There's more to it than just movement and breath. That's why it's called yoga. Otherwise, it'll be called movement and breath.
No.
So,
for example, there's different types of yoga, and the Western world have split it into different sectors, because that's what we like to do. We like to market things. So we take something that's just one yoga. Someone with no arms or legs can do yoga, because yoga's all about the mind.
Of course, it's not about it's about the mind. It's about emptying your body, making it empty. Yeah. But this is something we can speak on later on down the line when we get into the spirituality side of it. But what I learned about yoga was about, yoga is all about people emptying their body, becoming empty, completely empty. But when you become completely empty, you're leaving yourself vulnerable and open for entities to now enter into you, because you're empty. And that can become a dangerous space as well. That's just something that I've learned from yoga. But again, as we get more into this, there's things that you can educate me on if I'm wrong, and this might be one of them as well, but this is from what I've learned about yoga. So that's what I'm saying. It's a very dangerous practice to bring into school, when as much on the forefront of it, stretching, breathing exercise, great. That's great on the physical side. But behind that, there's the spiritual side, and a side that's run off energy. Now, this is where people are playing with fire, where on the front side, it's stretching and breathing, but then you're playing with energies and spirits here, and this is what, you know, you're not disclosing and what's not apparent. And maybe the people that are even, you know, running these sessions don't really realize what they're doing as well.
Yeah, I feel like I've got a few people that do yoga for children, and they just call it bear yoga. You know,
The fact that you just said
bear
that,
yoga,
that's my point right there.
and
That someone's doing yoga for children, but they call it bear yoga. By giving it a different name, let's make it bear, make it more child friendly. It makes it seem like it's something maybe different or not as so, not saying harmful, because it could be harmful, but not as harmful. You know, it's just, you know, a little delicate for children because it's called bear yoga, but it's yoga nevertheless.
yeah. There's only one type of yoga. You know, there's only one type of yoga in the world that's been for thousands and thousands of years, which is breath and movement. And then people have just added their different things onto it, but it is just breath and movement and being connected, you know, and just staying connected to the energy, the source that we're all from.
Isn't yoga about being disconnected and emptying yourself?
No, it's about connecting.
Who do you connect with?
Source.
What source?
Source.
In fact, do you know what? We'll get to that. We'll get to that because we're going to get into all that, because I don't want to start jumping around this interview, but we will get to that. So yeah, we'll get to that. Moving on, before we get to your spiritual journey, at 16, you started selling drugs. You were grafting. You started selling drugs, and you started looking up to the wrong characters. Were you searching for something? What were you searching for?
Searching for acceptance, validation, financial gain, to be part of a tribe, to be protected, to be loved.
Financial gain.
Yeah, well, I've seen, you know, people on nice bikes or people coming on nice cars and chains, and, you know, I looked at these things as this at that time. I thought these people are respected. This is what you have to get to be respected, you know. And then, you know, getting into this with the narcotics and doing these certain things, and then getting to know these people on a deeper level. You know, when you sit down and you start to chat to them, I found out that there was, you know, just suffering a lot of wounds and a lot of trauma, and this was the best that they knew, you know. And I don't judge anyone, you know. People have got to put food on the plate, man. I've got to do the things. It's like,
This is what you thought at the time.
At the time, I was just a kid, man. I just wanted to be part of the crew, searching, seeking.
You were saying financial gains and, you know, seeing these guys with nice things. I'm just going back to our earlier conversation, and you were talking about growing up, and you said that, you know, you had everything that you needed. You didn't really want for anything. What changed where you suddenly wanted these nice or new things that you were seeing as nice? What made you feel like suddenly you didn't want before, but what changed to you now wanting?
Well, then you get, I suppose, you start to get to the age where you want females to look at you. You know, you want to be looked at. See people coming on the estate with new trainers all the time, or new caps, or, you know, you think, yeah, man, they look cool. You know, so you start to look up to these people. You're like, you know, I want to be like them. I want to look like them. You know, I want to go gym and, you know, have that presence like them. You know, they fit a t-shirt like that. Boom, you're looking at the back, and you're just a little boy. You know, so you look at these as like big warriors. These like Aztec warriors that are coming onto your estate.
Were they your role models?
At the time, yeah.
They were? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, I wanted to be like them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you become like them? Did you get there?
I got there, bro. yeah. Got there, and just got lost along the way, lost my roots, man. You know, I just realised.
It's interesting you saying that. You saying that you got there, you became one of them. You became who you wanted to be. And when you got there, you became lost. Because just going back a few sentences before, when you were describing them, you were describing them as lost and not knowing any better. So when you finally became one of them, you became lost the same way.
Yeah. Yeah, you start to go out, start to go to clubs, you know. You might get guest list jump, you know, people, boom. So it's all ego.
Yeah.
It's all ego driven. It's not heart, you know. It's not heart. It's not rooted. It's not who you are. you know, so you kind of lose your roots a little bit, and life starts to pull you around a little while, and you experiment with life. You're saying, I'll try this, I'll try that. Like, that was good, I'll try that. You're just young, man. You're just trying things. And then after you do it once, twice, 3 times, you're like, I thought this was going to be better than this. It looked better on the packaging than when I'm actually doing it now. You know, and I think it actually causes grief. I think you actually go through a phase of grief where you go, and the feeling lost and the grieving is because it's not who you are. It's not who, you know.
When you're playing a character, that's what it is, playing characters, and you know, the character is so far disconnected from who you are, you become lost, and suddenly you become upset because I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm not sure what the character's supposed to be doing at this stage in the story anymore, because it's not me. And who are you? I don't even know anymore. And that's where people start to have these breakdowns, because they've been following these trends and so forth, and they don't really know who they are. And I feel like a lot of people are like that these days due to social media. I'm seeing a lot of it in social media where people are becoming lost. I fell victim of it myself. And then you have to, you know, take a step back and look at yourself and say, wait a minute, who am I? What am I doing? Why am I even thinking this way, doing these things, even into these things that everyone else is into? And I'm like, it's this universal consciousness that's been created and fabricated amongst the masses, isn't it? And it's that, you know, you got to take a step back and say, actually, who am I?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because this isn't it.
Yeah. That's it, bro. It's like you get sucked in. You get sucked in, and you know, your ego sells you the dream.
Yeah.
You know, and if it was to honestly sit in my heart at that time, and my gut was saying, don't do that.
Yeah.
But I didn't listen to it.
I'm saying, to be honest, yeah, like you're saying, I was always conscious about the things I was doing when I was doing what I was doing in my younger days. But like you're saying, so you got telling you, but you still did it anyway because you're part of the clan. You just went along with it, but you know, you got us telling you.
Yeah, you wanted to get your stripes. You know, you wanted to be a name, you wanted to be someone on your estate. You know, you wanted to be respected. And then I realized getting older that the people was not respected out of love, they was respected out of fear.
Out of fear, yeah.
You know,